No.
Everybody, join me. Happy
birthday
birthday to
to
you.
Who knows?
Happy
Birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you. Happy
birthday,
birthday, dear Dennis. Happy birthday to you. Cha cha cha.
Wow, thank you. This is the best birthday ever.
Dennis,
Yes?
did you know that our birthdays are a day apart?
I didn't know that. I think
Wow.
maybe I did.
My birthday is tomorrow.
You say it's your birthday. Da-na-na-na-na-na. It's my birthday
All
too.
right.
No.
It's been a hard day tonight.
Namaste.
Expectro Patronum. All right.
Insert word here.
Oh, I feel like we should screenshot that and make it a meme.
We should.
Be transparent.
All right.
Great. Well, now we know the origin story of that one.
That could turn out
Let's
really
talk about
poorly for you.
let's talk about the last week of CX. What's happened? So
Right.
Stacy and I were together with Rob.
You had a lot of fun, right?
Say that again?
It looks like last week you all had a lot of fun. Definitely going to need to put that in our diary for next year, right, Greg? Just like that.
Tickets for everyone.
It was a good time, that's for sure.
And where
Rob,
was
what
it?
was your favorite?
exactly?
It was
Go
in
ahead, Claire.
Orlando
Okay. Cool.
at the
And were you
Lowe's
speaking?
Royal Pacific Universal.
Okay.
And I saw none of Mickey Mouse. None.
Same.
Well, you had Nate with you, Stacy.
He was very hard to miss. I'm going to pull up a picture of Nate flashing lights and all.
Yes.
I have a great picture. Yes, you could not miss him. His love for all, and no Mickey Mouse had Nate.
Mm-hmm. What was the highlights then? What did you pick up on?
Can you see?
Oh yes, definitely.
Oh my!
I can tell you what the highlight was because Stacy probably won't volunteer it, but Stacy was the highlight.
Really? Oh, fantastic!
So let's talk about what happened here in a theme that was all about overcoming challenges. So Stacy had a session; she was giving a talk, and in her session,
a packed room. By the way, that this happened.
Room. Absolutely packed room and being recorded, right? I mean, they're getting all of this on film and camera. And Stacy has video in her presentation. So she's about, I don't know what, Stacy, 10 minutes in, give or take. And then she has this video and she goes to play the video and there's no sound. And the sound is pretty critical. And so then there's some people running back and forth and they're like, oh, well, it's not plugged in. And someone yells. That's not, there was no yelling, but someone suggests rather loudly that Stacy just lean in with her lav mic to this laptop so that the lav mic can pick up the sound from the laptop speakers at the front of the room. And Stacy leans in with her arms spread like an airplane through the duration of this video and then subsequent videos to make sure that we could all hear and that she could, the show must go on.
Don't forget, not only did I lean in, right? So lean in and butt in the air. Don't forget the butt in the air.
That's right. And butt in the air.
Right. So and I made the room laugh. I was so upset. I wanted to cry on the spot, but I made laughter my tool and it failed me. The technology failed me. And guess what? Here's like the secret at work. I was afraid. I was so stressed out before the event, not for my speech, but for technology. And it happened. Be careful what you think of. Be careful what you put out in the universe. It happened. So thank you, Rob, for being in the room, for laughing with me and me laughing at myself. And I crashed afterwards because I was so upset. I was so upset, but I know that I was resilient, and it might have been better because of it, because it was really human.
Yeah,
So,
it
I got to-
absolutely was human. and I know everyone
Dennis
enjoyed
saw
it.
me.
Yes. So
Yes.
I saw Stacy right after the event,
Yes.
and here was my take on the situation. Just saying, if your technology is like a critical part of your presentation, and your presentation is a critical presentation, the odds of the AV failing are so sincere that at that moment, Stacy was at the apex of the most important presentation anywhere in the world, converging with technology. So, Stacy, you were actually at the very tippy top of the speaker world at that very moment.
Well, thank you, everyone. And Dennis, I mean, how lucky actually in this very moment, because now I can breathe and like step back at the humanness of what happened. But Dennis, you were the first person among the first, I should say, when I walked out of the room, to be with me for a good half hour and saw me diffuse and then empathize and share stories as I was coming down from such adrenaline and happy and sad. So really cool to be here right now, even just reflecting, because it was a lot of emotions. And I'm sure other people will have had this before or will have it.
The more important the presentation is, the more likely it'll happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I
Probably
guess it's
also
like everything else. When you're a keynote speaker, you take it all in as well. And when you're truly a professional speaker, whatever happened, bang, you go, you jump on the mic, you do whatever has to be done. So your
You
presentation,
lean in. You
You
lean
lean
into the mic.
I also heard
So
that
well
another
This is a blog.
guy somewhere said, "I don't need to do a check; it'll be fine." That ruined it. That was the moment that really killed it. That just flipped the odds.
But what about, Paul, when you have people check and you trust?
Mm.
What do you say to that?
Did you try restarting it? Just turn it off and back on.
Power cycle. First step of troubleshooting. Good job, Paul.
The trauma is so real.
But we keep it real, so this fits.
Has anybody ever not had the AV fail? Claire?
I haven't had, but I have to say, because I've seen it so many times happen, that I'm very not often do I use videos in my presentations. So I'm kind of escaping the risks, avoiding the risk in the beginning by not using videos. I have used some in the past, but that's not often I'm using those because of that.
Fair.
That
There's a
can't be
theme
the
here.
answer. That can't be the answer. Technology, we can't avoid technology. No.
Yeah, there's a theme. I wasn't there. I didn't hear. So I'm hearing this for the first time. And I think what's fascinating to me is what stories resonate with us, what stories resonate with others. It's these stories of where things didn't go right. And I guarantee, Stacy, you're going to remember this one and probably smile about it through the pain a decade from now. Whereas the next great keynote that you give a month from now, it may fade. This one will stick with you. And I would assume, hearing the way y'all are reacting now, it's going to be a smile of that overcoming. It's a CX story, right? You know, it's sometimes the customer that's disappointed that gets delighted has a better positive view of the brand. Your experience here may end up being one of those that you have the better positive memory of this in the end.
You're 100% right. And In fact, this recording we're doing now, I'm going to share this out with an article because I do want people to hear what we're talking about. And what I also want to say, and this is not to butter up Dennis, however, even though it's his birthday, however, that after we speak, after we do anything important, to have the community, even if it's one person or many, the ability to have come out of that and have a community. Dennis was in my physical space. That is so important for all of us. So you either pick up the phone and find your people, or they're in front of you I mean, this was not planned in Dennis style, but he was there. So I'll say that.
The community is so important. That's why I love this little support group, the CX group. So I'm glad everyone's here. It's so important. Spoken like a true CXer, Rick. On a better note, you had some CX news last week, right? You're doing this new travel Grand Canyon. Didn't you?
Oh, Dennis, that's it's actually, thank you for bringing that up. It's not really customer experience related. It is something my wife and I are doing because apparently I didn't feel the pain of doing one podcast. I thought it'd be a good idea to do 2 podcasts. And so my wife and I have started another podcast called The Loud Quiet, which is all about our experience becoming empty nesters. And the Grand Canyon featured heavily in one of the episodes. It was our first time filming remotely. And we are very unequipped to do this. So I was hanging the camera from a bush using a clip that you use to watch movies inside of an airplane with lav mics. People are hiking in the middle of what we're doing because, well, you know what? That's what they should be doing. So, Dennis, thank you for bringing it up. It has been a fun podcast. Our goal from the beginning was just something to connect my wife, Clancy, and me together. That goal has been achieved. The rest of the fun and the great things that we've learned along the way have been kind of an additional bonus as well.
Rick, it almost sounds like you were encouraging the failure. Sorry, Dennis.
Certainly clipping it to a bush in the middle of a windstorm, not a great idea, but it worked.
I was going to say, it's still a human experience, and technically this is your 3rd podcast, the CXT show.
Thankfully, I get to be not the producer. Thank you, Dennis, for making that happen. So yes, you are correct. Number 3.
All right.
Have any of y'all done side personal podcasts out of curiosity? Is this something that I'm crazy enough to do and should stop immediately?
What do you mean side?
Yeah, great point, right? I guess CX Passport is the main podcast that I do, and this was something that we developed as a parallel. That probably is better than side, isn't it, Stacy? It's a parallel podcast that we just started. Something personal.
Okay. Oh, gosh, we could spend an hour on this because I would love to do that. As Dennis and I were talking briefly, and this is a really good question for today or another day, is I need a virtual assistant. I need more arms and legs and hands because I want to do that, Rick, but I can't even keep up with my own show and all the other things. And Dennis has an entourage. It's just a solopreneur here. Oh my gosh. Pain.
Well, since we're bringing it up, and this is our safe space where we help each other, one of the things that I look for in building this little small community is content creators. And, recently I've been helping Greg with his small things as well. So certainly, Stacy, I can help you with little virtual assistants.
Dennis, you can share what we did together. I don't have any issue at all.
You go for it, Greg. I mean,
sure.
I think it'd be good for your people to hear what it's like to work with my team and how it works.
Only the positive thing or also the negative one?
Either. It is the CXT.
No, joke aside. I have the podcast and I'm running that in parallel to my corporate job. And sometimes the corporate job requires a bit more of Greg than usual. And therefore I come into some struggle of focusing and prioritizing, because I know my priority would be the podcast, but I have duties in my corporate job. And therefore I am still looking for a sponsor. This episode is brought to you by, and the idea would be then to outsource the production process. This is on one side, and on the other side, I think most of you have also a podcast, and I know, Stacy, perhaps yours is a bit more successful, but basically we have similar podcast, and I am getting 3 inquiries a week to speak on my podcast. And these are CX experts, these are companies, and so on. And the usual answer that I get is, we want to join, it's for free, you do the job, we get all the gains and the content. And what I said is, if you want to join my podcast, is 1 day of work, and therefore it's like 1 day of consulting. And therefore I started asking for money. I want to be honest, I didn't add many people paying for that, but few paid for that. And therefore I created together with Dennis' team a 1-pager, happy to share that in after this discussion, with the key information about the podcast, the prices that I have, and what I'm looking for, and what I can offer to the people. And I worked together with Dennis' team. It was really great. It was smooth, easy, simple, quick, and it worked pretty well. This is one thing that I did with Dennis together. And the second thing that I'm doing together with Dennis, I need to be honest, I know that it's recorded. My wife will not have a look at it, therefore I can share that. I over-promised what I can deliver during October. I delivered 2 keynotes and some other stuff. And on Friday, I have a lecture at an university in Switzerland. I have all the slides together, but they don't really look like well. And Dennis' team is now designing all the slides for me. I provided the content, and now I'm getting a nice design, because it's at the end, that's what students are seeing, is the design of the slides next to the stories. And somebody from Dennis' team is now working day and night to finalize the design of all the slides. And it's a great experience. It's worked extremely well, and I'm super happy to do that. And therefore, that's when I started, let's say, helping and asking for support to Dennis, because everything is getting a bit bigger, urgent, and so on. And then I need some support.
I think it's surprising how much work a podcast creates. Like, everybody thinks, oh, podcast, that'll be fun. And then you start one and things like that. And then you start going, oh, well, we could just do that. And we could do that. And we could add a newsletter and we could do a blog. And before you know it, the podcast's become your full-time job. And like, it's taken over your life when you're saying no to family time, because I really need to get this blog written. And yeah, it's truth, Greg. It is hard to keep up sometimes.
I could cry from this. I literally could cry from this. I'm serious. You're like, I'm bleeding, but go on.
No, I think at some point in time, I am in front of the decision. If I want to continue and doing it in a bit professional way, then I need support. And therefore, what I'm getting from other activities, I will invest in the podcast. And this is the production, really the production. I need to improve the quality of the audio files that I'm sharing, and I need somebody helping me with some other stuff. I really like and love to prepare for this discussion, to record the discussion together with the guests, have the discussion with them. But all the production, it's too much for me. I can say it's 3 years in a row that I'm doing that.
You two could be with sharing somebody by the sound of it.
You know, I want to say what Paul said is so true. You get more and more work the more you do it, whether it's, I'm also in the process of trying to clean up the sound, but Camille the other day on my team came and said, you're not even promoting the podcast. You post it to the internet, but you don't send the files to your guests or any of that. So there's all this extra work that's always happening. It's crazy.
The other thing is,
Go on.
Sorry.
Go.
The other thing I was going to say is things you can automate. There's tools you can automate. So almost in a way, I think what's helpful, and I'd be happy to do this with anybody, kind of like, what's your process? Here's my process. And then this point here and here can be automated. And this part needs a human. And I think that's the combination. I just haven't had time to even map out my process. I just do it.
100%, Stacey.
So-
Yeah, Stacey, that's something I would love to have a conversation about, because I've got my checklist. It's a very rhythmic, it's the old OpEx Six Sigma in me. I know my process, but man, oh man, it's manual. It's very DIY. And so anything that could be automated would be brilliant.
And
Let's talk.
Rick, what you're saying, sorry, Stacey, I have exactly the same issue. I have my process, I can follow it, but I know that there is a lot of room for improvement. And every day, new tools are coming out, mentioning this script or all these others. But sorry, I want to be honest, it's extremely stupid and not strategic. I don't have the time to invest to learn a new tool. And therefore, I'm executing my process as stupid as it is in order to get all the episodes out. And I would need some time to stop, review, and improve the process. And that's the big point.
Greg, you've just said the same words
Well,
that every
very
client
nice.
I work with says. Beautiful. Love it.
I know.
Thank you for validating my business.
Well, I also want to say something for Dennis again. I'm showering you with extra love, not just today, but also, and that it's very hard for us to know who to trust. And this is CX, in real time here. So by having you be able to share and refer, that, like, we're going to trust who you refer. And that's part of why I haven't been outsourcing anything, maybe one thing, but it's because of trust. Who do you trust? And by the time you take the time to explain it, and then you have to get somebody else because that one didn't. Trust is so huge in CX and in everything we're talking about right now.
It's so true. And the people that I work with, I've been working with them for years. And I think where I try to be transparent is it's a journey. When you work with the people that I work with, they're dynamic, they listen, they do many iterations. So it's a process. I try not to do the birthday gift thing where you say, give it to me, and then I give it back to you and see if you like it. I prefer to just co-create everything. It's really the way. And I was laughing about the process you were talking about, because I have absolutely no process. I was talking to Justin and Nate about this at the show. I'm just completely random. I just walk through shows with my mics and I'm like, do you want to talk? And then I talk to people. I mean, I have no process. I mean, I could benefit from so much more strategy there, I think.
And I think one other thing that it's relevant, it's not only about preparing the podcast recording and then the production, but it's also the marketing side, putting that out to the people, reaching the right people. I ask myself why I have on some episode 500 downloads and on others only 200. And this is something that I still not understand pretty well. I think it's linked to who is the guest, if the guest is also publishing the episode and so on. But also there is quite a lot of opportunities. And I spoke with really big podcaster with real millions of downloads. Rob, I'm not lying. And they are saying they are also doing advertising on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, this target advertising. And they told to me it's not so expensive as I would think. But I don't know where to start, to be honest. And I don't have the time to create a concept. Paul, that's the second business you can start, and finding way out to advertise that. And this is a thing I think for me after 3 years is time. Okay, I go to the next level, or I should rethink what I'm doing.
Greg, I'm curious, when you talk about expanding the audience, like what is your end goal for the podcast? Like, what's your purpose in doing the podcast?
It started like, let's try and see what's happening, and in the meantime it's got like a masterclass, because every week I learn something, and my idea is to share and reshare what I'm doing with other people, and I think they can profit. It's not, and in future will be even more. It's not only about customer experience, it's about digital transformation, business transformation, and also in leadership, because there is no expert in leadership. We all are learning how to drive, how to do leadership. And for me, it's really sharing back and creating, let's say, a brand around myself, what I'm doing with the CX goalkeeper. And basically, my target is to get something like Keynote, doing keynotes in a professional way. I am not doing and selling consulting. This is something that I decided not to do, because I was a consultant. I know how the work is as a consultant. With big consulting companies, you have different rules if you are an individual, and I don't know how Stacy is doing that, but you need to deliver, you need to sell, and that's not what I'm planning to do in the future.
If I could offer any advice, Greg, it's really quick and simple to do, that probably doesn't, once it's created, doesn't add a lot of work to your plate, is making sure that the guests that come on your show understand how the best ways of advertising it themselves are. Because a lot of people, I find a lot of guests that come on a lot of podcasts have wrongly assumed that you'll do all the advertising and forget about the power of their own network. And actually the combination of the two is what really makes things work well. So just having like that template of, here's how you can share your appearance on my podcast to your followers on LinkedIn, or here's a quick synopsis that I'm going to use for the show, and you can share this amongst, just giving them the tools to make it really simple and easy for them, because that's the bit that they just can't be bothered to do or don't know how to do. And if you give them that, then that makes all the difference. You'll still get people who don't do any of that because they just want to come on your show and just be on the show. But it will make a difference for some people who just were willing but don't know how.
I think this is the great point, because it's something that I am doing, but not really in a professional way. I am asking always people to advertise also on their social medias. I am sharing also one picture that they can use. But for example, what you are saying, sending a synopsis or some text and so on, it would make it even easier for the audience to share that. Because, for example, for me, it's clear. I know if Farhan Niaz is sharing that my podcast is cool on LinkedIn, then the day after I have 150 additional downloads.
I will tell you, I know two people who do that really well. One of them just left this meeting. So Rick has a template that he uses. You could probably ask him for that. He sends links to, I think, 4 different assets. But somebody else who does this really well is Russell Lawlacher, who does the Relationships at Work podcast. He's out of Canada. And I only know this not because I've been on his show, but I actually recommended a guest for his show. And when that episode did come out, he sent me the same email that he sent the guest to help promote the show. And so I think that's also an example, and I don't do this well, but he does it well. I think that's an example of another thing that you can do to help promote it, is if you've gotten a guest as a recommendation from someone, take note of that. And then when that episode comes out, tell them, hey, thank you for recommending X to be on my podcast. Could you, if you want to promote it, I would appreciate it. Here are the assets to do that. So then you get a little bit of a multiplier effect, because you're getting hopefully your guest to do it, but you may actually get the person who said, hey, this is a great person to have on your show.
One thing I'd throw out there is when I spoke to Camille about this situation, she mentioned that your guest doesn't always know that it's okay to share. And I thought, what And then when we were at CCW, somebody asked, "Is it okay if I
He
share
froze.
this?"
Yeah.
And
But Stacy, you wanted to say something.
He's back. I was going to say that I always, after the when it's launched, I always email the person on my show with some details, and I will give them the link to the information. I don't send them the videos and all the clips and all that because I'm working in such real time. I don't always have it ready, but I always tag them and I give them the information and ask them to share it. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I think that I just think it's the relationship that you have or don't have.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mhm.
I was just saying that guests don't always know they can share. So it's important to tell them. I was amazed at CCW that some people asked me if it was okay to reshare the content, and that never really occurred to me, which is strange for being a CXer, but
Yeah, I think we assume things, don't we? Because we do it automatically, right? We will just see something or we get tagged somewhere, we'll go and bang, 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 we'll reshare, we'll like, we'll comment on it. It's kind of automatism because that's what we do. But really kind of being able to give a little nudge and, kind of get them to think about this because that would be good. It's a really good point, definitely.
There's a lot.
all right.
To
So
be
next
said.
question, Claire, what's
Oh.
happening in CX in Dubai for you?
Well, actually, Denise, at the moment, I'm back in the UK. I'm in Jersey. Yes, I'm actually back for a few weeks. So hopefully we'll be back, in Dubai around mid-November or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think you'll be the next one on the CX stage in Dubai, right?
Yes, but let's make sure we get together while we're together in Dubai. Rod, Paul, what's happening in CX in your world?
There's CX in my world. To be fair, there's very little CX in my world, Dennis. It's about grinding out other people's podcasts a lot of the time right now. So it's interesting that we've had this conversation today because it's nice for me to see the other side of what I do. So I'm very much involved, very much like your team, Dennis. I'm very much involved in helping busy professionals in maximizing how quickly they can get their content out there, maximizing how much volume of content they can get out, and thinking of, to your point, Greg, how do you use technology to fast track what you're doing to make it effective, but retain that human element because nobody likes fully automated outputs. And I see so many times even on LinkedIn still seeing people sharing AI generated posts, and I saw one the other day that people had been commenting on that actually the guy had left the prompt in the bottom, the response from ChatGPT in the bottom of his post that said, "Thanks for that correction. I hope my new feedback was much better for you." And nobody called him out for it. And there was a few people who were commenting on the post, and I just sat there and I was like, do I call this out? Do I say something? Do
I'm
I not
so
say
glad you didn't call me out.
something?
But Paul, speaking of content creation and posts, you've been starting this new video walking with your baby series, which I really love the authenticity of it all. How's that going?
So it started because I realised a few things all at the same time. Was one, I needed to get more exercise because I love my job. I love what I do, and it's very easy to stay at the desk rather than get out there. But I also love walking, and I love spending time with my family. And it also, because my wife's off on maternity leave at the moment, the baby's 9 weeks old, just for everyone. So like, he's very much in that very dependent stage. And it was a case of, I just thought, do you know what? I'm at my most creative when I'm out walking. I get loads of post ideas come to my head. Exactly. I'll get loads of post ideas come to my head. I'm usually listening to an audio book while I'm walking, and something in the audio book will trigger me, and I'm like, hang on, pause this, send myself a WhatsApp or an email. And I just thought, do you know what? I live right near the countryside, so I can walk around with a selfie stick with a lav mic on and not feel like an absolute idiot in the middle of amongst everyone. And I still feel like an idiot walking around with a selfie stick. It just doesn't feel right at all. It's awful. The lav mic I can get away with. Nobody really sees that. The selfie stick, and it's red as well. It's a big red selfie stick. But it just killed all of my problems all at once, because I could take my son away from my wife, give her a bit of a break. I got to spend some time with my son where he wasn't screaming in my face, because he pretty much just goes to sleep on me. I'll get exercise. I'm creating content where the content strikes me so it's fresh. And I don't get that moment where I've sent myself an email about some content and I have no idea what I was talking about. Like, what, Paul, what seriously was this crap that you were creating? It sounds interesting, but I didn't give myself enough context to actually create the post. So yeah, it's been fun. I'm enjoying it.
I have a question about that. So I know there's that selfie stick, or you can just hold your phone like this.
Yeah.
Are you using AirPods and that's how the sound is good while you're walking? Like, how are you making sure the quality of sound with outside noise?
No, so I did a bit of research and I found it's going to come across as an advert for Rode now, but I've got a Rode Smart Lav Plus, and it's a omnidirectional mic that's specifically for outdoors, and it has the weather filter on the end of it. So I tested it because I've got a busy road near where I live, and it's a very fast road, and I tested it walking down there. And actually, although you can hear the cars, the quality of my voice over the top of that is still crystal clear. And when I'm out in the countryside, it's actually, I would argue, even better than when I'm in the office, because there's no acoustics and it's a nice, clear environment. I actually think it's better.
So you're attaching, I'm getting technical for a very non-technical person here. So bear with me, kindergarten level here. So you're holding your phone, or you have your whatever gadget selfie stick, then you have a mic and it's attached wirelessly.
It's a wired mic that's clipped on, so like what you'll wear on stage. Yeah.
And it's wireless to your phone. Oh.
Well, I've got a wired
okay.
version. I've got a wired version because, like you, Stacey, let's not leave anything to as little as possible to wireless as possible. So I've gone for the good old wired approach. But yeah, it works beautifully.
And what are you doing to record? Just on your phone? Oh.
Yep. Just on
on your phone. Just on camera.
Yeah, you don't need the
Rob, I couldn't
connect the when you connect the microphone, it also assumes that it's a pair of headphones. So you have to disconnect that to listen back to your recording, because otherwise it'll try and play it through the microphone that doesn't have any earphones attached. But yeah.
And Rob, what are you showing? It's a particular mic because it's blurry.
Yeah. So this is. I would encourage anyone to share what they use. I know Dennis has a similar setup, but he's probably using an iPhone. So if you use an iPhone, I would get a rec from him. I'm an Android guy. So this little setup has this little guy is just like what Claire was showing. This plugs into the bottom of the phone. It's a USB-C. It's the receiver. And then it comes with 2 wireless lav mics. And so you can give one, if you're talking to someone, you can give one to them, one to you, and record all at the same time. And it's just this nice little case. And this one also comes with the little fluffy wind cutters. So you can throw these on top of the mic if you're outside. And it has headphones, wired headphones as well, if you want to do that. So,
okay, Dennis, iPhone user here. Can you put in the chat what you recommend?
I can do one better. So I switched the iPhone 15, so I have the same setup as Rob, but I have 2 kits for the lightning cord mics. Just like what Rob showed, I just sent them to you.
You're holding a light. You're holding a mic. What?
No, don't bother with it. Don't bother with the light. I'm outdoors.
Dennis is about to break out the equipment.
So I'm going to send you the microphones. So you put the microphones, you plug it in your phone, throw it on the selfie stick, and you go. That's
Yeah.
it.
But does
Yeah.
it have the wind and the what Paul described in terms of sound, and
I'm a bit
or
offended.
is it
can
just
get a
a
little
cheap
cover.
thing?
With my profile, have you?
You
You
get a
haven't
little
been watching
cover
my
that
videos.
you can cover it up. But to Paul's point, the Rode mics with the sound cancellation and all that are better.
Paul, are you an iPhone? Apple?
Android.
No? Oh, come on.
I like to mess
All
about with
the
my equipment
allegiances
too
are
much.
coming out.
I swear by my Apple computer, my iMac and my MacBook Pro. Swear by them. I've got an iPad, love my iPad. But for my phone, I cannot live with an iPhone. Cannot live with it. Just doesn't do what I want it to do the way I want to do it. I want to access my
So-
files my way.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because, Dennis, as you know, I had a little setup at the show to do some recording, and I did some. And I thought that I even had 2 Yetis there. The audio on pretty much everything turned out to be shit. So I know that you capture audio in the field all the time. So I would love some details on what you use, because I know you came by and captured video with me as well as a ton of other people. And I know how yours comes out, and it always comes out good. And I think I need to, if I am ever going to do that again, I am absolutely not going to use the setup I used.
Okay. And I think I'm having some audio, after you said all that, I'm having some audio challenges today in this podcast. But here's my secret when filming on location. Number 1, the camera is the Sony ZV-1, which is built for this work. Second of all, I use the Rode shotgun mic. And then third, I have to remove all the background noise in the film editing software. That's how I do it.
Do you use Adobe for that?
I use Final Cut.
Okay.
So, Rob, if you're using
I can
Descript,
do a little walkthrough on a Zoom call or something if you want.
Rob, if
And
you
you have
use
to be
Descript,
side by side, right? Oh yeah, Descript, yeah. But you have to be side by side, right? When you're walking, Paul, it's obviously just you, I think. But when Dennis and Rob, you have to set up where you're side by side so that you're in that phone view or computer view, right? You're not like, here's you, then here, like, you're not doing that.
I do that.
You can do it both ways. I think Dennis also does some, right? I just face it towards the person I'm talking to, and then later he can turn it around and kind of do it to himself. So he gets 2 different kind of clips, but you can also do it where you're side by side so that or very close to each other so that you can get both in the screen at the same time. You could also,
I love this.
if you really want to get crazy, which is what I tried to do. I just didn't have the right equipment. But I mean, you can just set up a tripod that's got that camera mounted to it, the mic mounted to it, and then you just get right in front of it. It's great if you've got somebody behind that can make sure that you're in frame. But that's a really great way to go about it too. But if you're moving like Dennis typically is, I imagine that he doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to lug around the tripod and have to set it up.
So with all that said, let's put all of our tech gadgets in the chat. So in our shared Google chat, so we all have that. It's coming to the end of the hour, so I just was going to wrap it up. But does anybody else want to wrap it up today? I feel like I've been talking way too much.
Happy birthday to you. Come on.
Thank you
You should
so
start a
much,
singing
Stacy, for being
career.
so wonderful.
Although I'm a much better of a speaker than what I am of a singer, so maybe Stacey, the stage is yours on the singing, because
I was not born to sing, but I, improv here. But that's how we should end this. Yes.
Well, thank you for those birthday wishes. I love seeing everyone every Tuesday. Next Tuesday, I might pass the host controls over because
you'll be in Dubai.
oh no, I'm here. Okay.
Okay.
So anybody who's here, the CXT show, thank you for all being here on my birthday. Stacey, thank you for the warm wishes. And
Happy birthday,
we're out.
Dennis.
Bye.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you, Ruab, also tomorrow.